Hello, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Derrigan. Alongside me, as always, is the very voluptuous, beautiful hair-styled Josh Finney.
God damn
it. Josh, your hair is going to be the thumbnail this week.
That's weird. Don't do that.
Oh, it's going to be.
It's weird. Yeah, my hair is rather poofy. If you're listening to this, which I assume most of you are, my hair is rather poofy this week. I washed it a couple hours ago, and it's very humid outside today. So I went outside, and it just like kind of blew up. And I've been trying to get it to go back down, and it's not working. So once I sleep on it, it'll be fine. But yeah, this is why I wash my hair at night before I go to bed, and not usually in the middle of the afternoon. But I have been feeling very ill for the last couple of weeks. Finally getting stuff taken care of tomorrow, and wanted to wash my hair before then. Thought that that maybe taking a shower this afternoon would help. And sometimes when I'm brooding, that's what my partner calls it. She says I brood a lot. I like to just stand under the detachable shower head, and because water feels amazing. But if I wash my hair too much, my hair starts to fall out. So it's kind of a catch-22. Falls out due to stress and anxiety. Things we're working on. But yeah, my hair is poofy today.
Well, either way, Josh, it looks beautiful.
You're not the kind of person I want to hear that from. I'm so sorry.
I mean, that's fine. I
want to hear that from my partner, not from you.
Yeah, it's fair, I guess. Your week going okay, Josh?
It has been
any cool surprises?
It's been a fucking exhausting week. I'm I talked about it a little bit last week. I have a very bad toothache. When you have a really bad toothache in two teeth right next to each other, and they're grinding against each other constantly, everything hurts. Like your whole side of the face starts to hurt. So I've been taking painkillers. I was prescribed some really strong painkillers that basically stopped working at this point because I've taken so many. Keeping ice on my face. In fact, as soon as we get in with this, I'll actually be going and laying down in bed with my laptop to watch the Mavs game. But
yeah, Stephanie's giving me a hard time, by the way, because the Celtics are just destroying the Cavs.
That's fine. Remind her that you've won a championship more recently than her.
Yeah, but they've also won like 47 of them.
That's fine. Most of those were against plumbers and carpenters.
Yeah, just true.
So, they ain't been shit since Larry Bird retired. I've when you have something like that, it starts to affect your whole body the longer you let it go untreated. I had to wait for a specialist to come to my dentist to do this because my dentist was upfront with me. It's like, yeah, I don't do root canals, like, because there's root canals can fail. So there's somebody who comes in once a month, a specialist. That's all that he does, and he will be doing them tomorrow morning. So 9 a.m. tomorrow. Sweet relief. I will be sedated. I'm very pent up and anxious about this, but I'm excited to get it over with, and I'm excited to do week 2 of Pantheon afterwards.
Yeah, week 2 of Pantheon.
I'm coming home and doing Pantheon either tomorrow night or on Saturday. Well,
all numb and
up on painkillers and a liquid diet.
Yep, numb and high. That's how you want to do Pantheon.
Yeah, our good friend Dealer messaged me this afternoon and was like, "Hey, I forgot what day your appointment is, but he's like, do you have any time tonight? Do you want to go do Oryx tonight?" And I was like, "No, I can't do it tonight." I was like, "But Friday and Saturday I'm around. Friday definitely gonna be a little bit harder, and I might not be all the way there. Like for sure Saturday." So the goal that he and I have set is for me to get through all 4 weeks of Pantheon. That's obviously going to get harder and harder as it goes on, but it's a great experience. I'm still really liking it. I have 2 clears of the Atrax set, the easiest one, of course. If you want to go on like farm those raid weapons, that's the one to do it on.
Yeah.
The changes to Oryx are fucking wild, man. I don't know if you've seen any of these.
I heard rumblings of some changes.
They spawn a tormentor.
Oh God.
They spawn a tormentor in the middle of the arena that is running around harassing you until DPS starts, and then it despawns, apparently. The light bearer knights that want to go and eat your light orbs, they keep respawning. You have to keep
Wonderful.
continuously killing them.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and when you get teleported into the Thunderdome, multiple shadows of Oryx appear.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So my fear was that they were going to put a tormentor in there. That was my initial fear.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
But our good friend Dealer has, I'm proud to announce, I got to brag on him here real quick, was the 9th team in the world to trio this week's Pantheon.
Ooh,
Yes.
19th, huh?
Ninth.
Oh, ninth. Dang.
The 9th team in the world to trio this week's Pantheon encounter. He is working on a flawless trio for this week. I don't know if he got the flawless trio for the Atrax set. I think he did, but I don't know for sure. I know he for sure got the trio clear. And I'm very interested to see if he can do the flawless trio on this one, with the changes to Oryx. But yeah, very very impressed. Definitely give him a shout if you see him in Discord.
Dang.
That is just,
Congrats.
I'm just happy to be here, man. I can't. That's too big brain for me. But me and him we're gonna be training up on legit Riven runs, so that I know exactly how to do legit Riven for when that comes in the last week. The fact that Riven's not the final boss is really terrifying, because I'm really scared to know what changes they're going to make to Nezarec to make Nezarec a challenge. Because of these 4 bosses, Nez is the easiest by far.
Mm-hmm.
By far. So I'm like, okay, what's gonna change here? It can't just simply be. I mean, one of the changes I would almost guarantee you is that the tormentors are going to spawn in place of the colossus that spawn in the arena.
Yeah.
Which would be 3 or 4 tormentors running around, and that's just terrifying to think about.
Yeah.
On contest difficulty,
Yeah,
having tormentors run around. Planets, like Explicator of Planets, is going to be a rough encounter on contest difficulty, because not only do you have a tormentor running around in the middle of the arena chasing you down, also random fire tornadoes spawn and chase you around, also not just during damage. So very interested to see how this is going to go. Pantheon continues to be great. Bungie was asking for some feedback earlier today, and I think I just saw like universal praise for this.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
a really cool idea.
little bit like better loot or prestige for like those who already have everything you can earn from this. But I mean, you're getting a set of 4 really dope emblems, and you're getting maybe the best title they've ever done in the game.
Yeah.
A very exclusive club, because you have 1 month to earn it. Very exclusive club if you get Godslayer.
Yeah.
That puts you like you're like the best of the best at that point at rating if you get that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, well, before we jump into too much Destiny, Corey.
Too much Destiny.
We have a decent amount of stuff to talk about this week for Destiny. We had a request in the Discord, and I wanna get to this one first. I was gonna save it for questions, but I'd rather just do it right off the top of the show. Jiggly Panda writes in and says, just saw the news that the studio behind Hi-Fi Rush got shut down. What is y'all's reaction? It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
rough.
that's the reaction. It's fucking bullshit.
Especially because the very next day Matt Booty made a comment about how they need games like that. And then apparently like Sarah Bond did an interview with Bloomberg today and commented on it. I didn't see her answer, but I saw it floating.
Yeah, I haven't read today's Bloomberg piece. I'll leave it at that. I saw the headline from it though shortly before we went live, talking about how they're going to launch a mobile store in July. That's probably going to be announced at the formally unveiled next month at the Xbox Game Showcase. But let's start with the initial announcement, because I do want to get to the Matt Booty comments at the town hall from Wednesday. That's the more interesting part of the puzzle to me. So the 4 studios that were shut down are Alpha Dog Games, which is a mobile studio owned by Bethesda. Only released 1 game under Bethesda, Mighty Doom, which sucked, by the way. Mighty Doom was terrible. Roundhouse Games, which had not put out a game of their own, but they did help co-develop Redfall. They have been absorbed into ZeniMax, so they're at least still there.
Mhm.
Um,
The ZeniMax Online, which is the MMO
yes,
studio for
the Elder Scrolls Online studio, yeah. I've seen there's been some speculation that this team is probably going to be transferred to the new IP that that studio is supposedly working on.
yeah, that would make sense.
That would be my guess as well, for what it's worth. Um, and then came the two that really caught everybody off guard. One of them is Arcane Austin, the original Arcane studio. The
Especially because last year they said they weren't going to close them because of one bad game.
so yeah, I've tried, and I'm going to try my best not to sound like an asshole here.
It's going to be hard, Josh, because this is a pretty I would say it's worthy of the anger.
This one is this studio is worthy of the anger. And yet, if I'm looking at this from an overall portfolio perspective, and and I mean, from what we understand, basically the higher ups at Microsoft came to Phil Spencer and said, "You need to tell ZeniMax to consolidate and close down some stuff." And Matt Booty's comments and I forget her name, the portfolio director over at ZeniMax, who oversees all the ZeniMax studios for Matt Booty. Um, she essentially said, we had the choice of having to close studios that are, or like get rid of teams that are actively working on games right now, or close down studios that were years away from having another title. When I look at it like that, I go, okay, I can see how Arcane Austin got caught up in that, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Um,
I mean, it makes sense.
it
It
fucking
just
stinks.
still
It fucking
sucks.
stinks. They made maybe one of the best games of the Xbox 360 era with the original Dishonored. Maybe the best immersive sim ever made. Well, I shouldn't say that. Dishonored 2 is better in every way, but they made one of the best games of the 360 generation. It came out at the very end of the gen. I actually did not play it until about 3 years ago. Um, thought it was really awesome. And then they put out Prey. 5 years later, they put out Prey, which had a very, very bad launch. Like a lot of Bethesda games, was very janky and almost unplayable at launch. Has since come to be hailed as one of the greatest games ever by a lot of people I've talked to. Not even just like shooter fanboys, but like just in general, like almost anybody I've talked to who has finished that game has nothing but extremely high praise for it.
Yeah.
Like they have it in the air above like Dishonored 2 as like either Arcane Studios' best game. And then fast forward, and it takes them 6 years to 5, 6 years to get Redfall out the door. And we've all heard the story about Redfall. We've covered it on numerous podcasts at this point. You guys can go back and listen to stuff from last year about that. But the long and the short of it is they didn't really want to make Redfall. They were kind of forced by the old board to do it. They had hoped Microsoft would cancel it when they came in. And this is when we say you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. This is the truest sense of that statement.
Mm-hmm.
When they chose to let it come out and it was terrible, right? But if they had canceled it, we never would have heard the end of, you canceled an Arcane game. You canceled an Arcane game.
Mm-hmm.
A multiplayer one at that. Like, oh, it would have been so good. Like, listen, like the grass is always greener, right?
Yeah, sure it is.
And so, I mean, I think you look at this and you go, okay, they haven't had like a great seller since 2012. They've only put out 2 games since 2012. And they've done a little bit of co-development here and there on some stuff. So it's like, okay, I can kind of like Redfall was so disastrous. I kind of understand where they're coming from with that one. Tango is the one that, and here's the thing, I think you could have announced those 3 and there would have been anger primarily over Arcane, but I think that most people would have been like, well, yeah, we kind of understand it because of Redfall. We kind of get it.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of get it. And no, by the way, no progress was made on fixing that game over the last year. Like supposedly they were working on DLC that hadn't been announced yet, and a giant patch to the game, and that's never going to see the light of day now.
Yeah.
I think they had a finite amount of time to turn that around, Sea of Thieves style. Like Sea of Thieves released badly and almost immediately started turning shit around right away. Redfall just kind of like sat there for a year.
Yeah.
It came out a year ago. It's been out for 1 year as of now. That
Mhm.
is just a wild statement to say. Tango is the one that makes zero sense. They seemingly did everything right. They were a Japanese studio, which, by the way, Microsoft cannot buy companies in Japan because they're an American company. So I don't know, like, what the fuck's going
Yeah,
on
they
with
have
that.
zero foothold in Japan now. Like,
Yep.
and that was like,
Japanese companies are not going to want to work with you now.
yeah,
Aside from like pre-existing agreements with like Sega, essentially.
yeah,
Um, they are a studio, it's founded by Shinji Mikami, the godfather of horror games. And they made last year's Hi-Fi Rush, which not only is a Game of the Year contender, it was getting awards less than a month ago still. It got a BAFTA a month ago, man. Like, what the fuck?
mm-hmm.
And that seemed to tick every box. It's a new IP. It's popular amongst fans, and I
And
get
it's
all that.
award
I
winning.
understand that. I'm definitely. It's a gorgeous game. It's a phenomenal game. It ranked. I want to say I had it 7th on my list last year when we did our Game of the Year list.
Mm-hmm.
I had like 7th or 8th, somewhere in there, but it made my top 10 for sure. It was the biggest surprise of the year by far for me. It was a shadow drop. It was one of those. They unveiled it, and it's available right now. It was incredible. And it started becoming this game that you're like, man, like people were finally starting to understand what we've been saying for a long time. Like, one of the strengths that Microsoft has had is putting out these smaller bite-sized games. And then the reward is you get closed down.
Yeah.
And I look at this and I go, okay, so you needed to close down some stuff at Bethesda. The more logical, and I never advocate for anybody getting closed down or losing a job. I would have closed Bethesda Dallas first over them. Like, they're largely a support studio that's working on, like, I think the Starfield DLC right now. Like, maybe be like, yeah, they're gonna finish that, and then like we're gonna transfer them to like other studios, because the whole explanation was we want to consolidate. We want to consolidate. Like, maybe like, oh, they finished that under the supervision of id Software or something, and then they get folded into that, so nobody loses jobs.
Yeah.
To keep Tango open. Like, I can't understand how you got to a point where you decided to close a Game of the Year studio. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the Matt Booty comments from Wednesday when he says we need more games like this. I'm trying to not to make this too drawn out. We're gonna, like, basically all of Monday's Xbox Casuals is going to be about the events of this week. But Matt Booty says, we need games like this. We need games like this, hinting or basically alluding to the critical acclaim. And I've seen like his comments kind of got taken out of text. Like, even if Jason Schreier is writing in to defend you, like, he's writing in to defend the like billion-dollar company, trillion-dollar company, excuse me, then okay, something got lost in translation. He essentially said, "Hey, that's not the full story." Like, he was saying, like, we need shorter games, but not like short length, like, because Hi-Fi Rush is a short length game,
Yeah.
but he's saying shorter as in shorter development times.
Yeah.
Something along the lines of Pentiment. Pentiment took about 2.5 years, 2 to 3 years, something like that, to make, and that started out. And I mean, Hi-Fi Rush kind of started out the same way. Started as a 2-person team, prototyping, coming up with the story and everything, and then they grew the team.
Mm-hmm.
And Hi-Fi Rush was able to do that once Ghostwire Tokyo was, close to being done. The reality is both Microsoft and Sony are facing this. They have to start making. They have to make more affordable games in a much shorter time frame. And the reality is these shorter, more narrative-heavy games are going to be your award winners. Like, look at something like Hellblade 2 is going to come out in 2 weeks. That is going to be an 8 to 10 hour game. Ninja Theory's already been really clear about it. That game's costing a small fortune to make.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean,
and I think that part of this also comes down to, like, we can only have so many auteur studios. There's somebody who wrote, I forget his name. He used to work for Xbox. He used to work for Microsoft and Xbox a couple years ago. Posted a long post on LinkedIn, of all places, and it got picked up and circulated, basically saying that this comes down to the higher ups at Microsoft are kind of going, Phil bought a bunch of studios that can make great things for Game Pass, but those games aren't going to be super profitable
Mm-hmm.
because Phil wanted pure games. Well, now that they bought Activision, basically buying Activision is what's triggering all of this, because now you've got the accountants looking at this going, it's not making Call of Duty, Diablo, or World of Warcraft money. It's got to go.
Yeah.
And so if I am Double Fine, if I'm Ninja Theory, I'm a little concerned right now. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'd probably be a little concerned. Like, Toys for Bob got divested, and they got extremely lucky because I have a very bad feeling they were probably on the cusp of having this happen to them back
Yeah.
with those layoffs in February.
Yeah. I mean, even you look at Activision though too. Like who's over there? Moon, High Moon, right? That's probably one that they're looking at.
So funny enough, I actually think those studios are kind of safe because they work on the Call of Duty machine. And they know that's their biggest, because that was the other part of the story that comes out is they're debating if Call of Duty should even come to Game Pass. And so it's like, do you keep it off Game Pass to appease the shareholders and bring in much needed revenue for the division, or do you piss off your customers? It's a real catch 22. Basically, the analogy I saw is that the Eye of Sauron turned once once Xbox decided they were going to buy Activision. Satya Nadella basically turned and started looking at the division and was like, when are you going to make me my $68 billion back?
right.
Like, yeah, someone on Twitter said, Kirk McLeod said this on Twitter, said, call me a cynic, but I don't think this would be happening if they hadn't bought Activision. Like, you did all this to get Call of Duty, Diablo, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, etc. under your banner. And it's going to cost you all your small studios. It's going to cost you all of your like actual artistic studios
Mm-hmm.
in the name of big IP. There are some teams that I think are going to be allowed to keep being creative. Like Obsidian has multiple small teams within it. Obsidian's going to keep doing what they're doing. Double Fine, I would imagine, is safe for now. If anything, we may never see Perfect Dark.
Yeah. I
That
mean,
studio,
that,
because the rumor is that they're not done yet, and they're going after Core Xbox next, and that's got to be the studio that goes before anything else. You haven't put anything out, and you've been around for 6 years now. You've rebooted Perfect Dark like 3 different times with 2 different studios helping you, and you can't even decide if this should be a first or third person game.
right.
It's probably time for you guys to go
Yeah.
before anyone else loses a job.
Yeah.
And also, like, at what point do we start holding? At what point do Phil Spencer and Matt Booty get held accountable?
Yeah.
Listen, I like Phil as much as I've liked any gaming executive in my life, but there comes a point where this dude is just a bad people manager. Because this keeps happening.
Yeah.
Like, we had the issues with Undead Labs, we had issues at 343, we had issues. Now we're having these issues with Bethesda and ZeniMax and all that. Like, these are things that could have been avoidable with better management, with expectations that were properly set, and by not in this is what makes me wonder if, and this is the last note I'm going to leave us on because I want to ponder this on Monday. Was it his choice ultimately to buy Activision, or was he told that he was going to buy Activision?
Right.
Because that's the $68 billion question to me. I can't help but wonder. And we said this last summer when we were covering the FTC trial. Like, one, I really wish the FTC would have stepped in here. Two, I was never a fan of this. Three, what if you had just taken 1 billion of that 68 billion? 1 billion. $1 trillion company, by the way. Can't afford to keep a small Japanese studio open, though, apparently. A literal penny on that studio is a rounding error at the end of the day.
Yeah. Also, their what do you say? Their annual salary is like half of what an American makes. Also, and they don't
Like,
have to pay for. I mean, they don't. Insurance is not a thing they
no,
have to worry about over there, really.
retirement pay, etc. Like, this is I wonder what you could have done for the studios that you already owned with $1 billion and just divided that amongst your studios. You could have kept these studios running for like a decade with no problems whatsoever.
Yeah.
They could have hired whoever they needed to hire. They could have made whatever they wanted to make.
Yeah.
So lots of questions to be asked and answered on Monday, but I want to address that at the top of the show. Of course, we always cover big topics.
Yeah,
So,
I just
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. If he was forced to buy Activision because they make a ton of money, because I mean, we talked about it back when they first started, like right when it was announced, right, where they could have taken like 1/10 of that money and purchased the smaller teams. Like we were, I think at the time we were kind of discussing like, oh, they could have maybe bought IO or bought Crystal Dynamics instead of Embracer Group, or
Yeah.
even Bungie. We were throwing Bungie around in there a little bit, and like, I don't know, man. I get it. Call of Duty makes a ton of money, but
It
you were
could
already
not be
making
worth losing what you just lost.
yeah, you were already making a ton of money off of Call of Duty. Like, why? I mean,
Yep.
you don't need to buy the cow when you're getting the milk for free. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I'm infuriated by this, and this is of course happening 2 weeks before. This is happening as Sony is exiting a giant Helldivers controversy.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening 2 weeks before your biggest AAA game in years comes out. The game you literally announced your console with is finally coming out, by the way, after 3.5 years of development. And it's from an auteur studio who now cannot possibly feel good about their future, seeing
Yeah,
what just happened. And you're like, great, great. Oh, and you have a showcase in exactly 1 month.
yeah. That's the kicker. Is like, what do you? I mean, what are
That's
you going
the
to show at the
kicker.
showcase? Like, what are you gonna
So,
like?
I mean,
You better get.
I think they have plenty to show at the showcase.
No, I mean, like, I, that's not what I meant when what are you going to show? I meant like, how are you going to like try to do that without thinking
How can
about
you
what?
walk out there with a straight face and say that we're all about the gamers and we're all about the teams that make the games?
Yeah, you can't. You can't
You
say that
can't.
now.
You can't. And what makes this even funnier is IGN they are already promoting it. They will have Phil Spencer on immediately after the showcase to discuss all things Xbox. I really fucking hope that Ryan McCaffrey and Rebecca Valentine are the ones interviewing him and hold his feet to the fire. I don't want to see another softball kind of funny interview here. I swear to fucking God, if I got to see Paris Lilly talk to Phil Spencer and ask him what went wrong this time, I might actually scream. No offense to Paris, I like Paris, but like I don't want softball questions here. I want some actual investigative journalist to hold his feet to the fucking fire right now
Yep.
and tell me what is happening. Why should anybody give a fuck about Xbox right now, essentially?
Yeah.
Like Sony is, I saw this great analogy, and this is where I'm going to leave it at. Sony is run by people who will drown in the rain, but Microsoft is the 8-year champion of slamming their dick in the car door. That's basically what it feels like right now. And then, so all this happens for 48 hours, right? And then today, lo and behold, Sony says, hold my beer again. And it's announced that Ghost of Tsushima will not be for sale in any territory that PSN is not accessible in on PC.
Yeah.
So good luck with that one, everyone. Anyways, we have another online Sony game to talk about right now. Destiny 2.
Man, I hate video games sometimes.
I hate the
this
industry. I hate the
Yeah.
industry. I love the video games. I love the art. I love the people. I hate the industry.
Yeah. It's
all right.
God, so sad.
Now that we're all sufficiently angry, let's dive into some also, before we get into Destiny, did you see that they have cast Galactus in the Fantastic Four and it's Sid from Final Fantasy 16?
Yeah, I saw that.
Ralph Ineson is going to be Galactus. He has the perfect voice for it. That's going to be great. I'm very excited. Very excited.
I hope people who like the Fantastic Four are excited.
I like the Fantastic Four. I'm very excited.
Oh, I'm glad you're excited, Josh.
It's a great cast. It's a great cast. I'm very excited. All right, Corey, let's jump in. We have a decent TWAB to talk about this week. I was gonna say nothing earth shattering, but we got 3 playtest previews that dropped this morning of the prismatic subclasses. Just kind of showing the mix and matching of all the abilities in it.
Yep.
So those are there. You guys can go check those out. We're gonna talk about the exotic class items today, though. That's the big meat and potatoes of this week's TWAB. They've stripped told us which perks are going to be available to roll on this, and hinting at how you're going to get them. The exotic class items will be part of a new activity that unlocks after the world's first raid at the beginning of week 2. We don't want to spoil what the activity is all about, or how to unlock it, but we can say it's farmable and you will get a guaranteed random roll each time you complete it. Perfect. That's what we wanted to hear. No notes. Great. It also takes away the fear that, like, oh, the expansion is going to come out and there's not going to be anything else to do. Like, no, this is going to drop at the beginning of week 2 along with the first episode. So it makes sense why the raid is coming out now when it is. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They want to grab people while they're still engaged with week 1 content. How many exotic perks, though, Corey? How many do you think we're getting?
75.
Well, no. You're getting 2 on you're getting 2 on each one.
2 on each one. 6.
2. I hate you so
This is why people listen to the show, Josh.
This is why they listen to it. Prismatic's all about combining effects that used to belong to specific subclasses, and we wanted to bring that to the design of the exotic class items too. So in many cases, we've adjusted the perks to work with a broader array of abilities. For example, Spirit of Caliban on the Hunter Cloak works with all powered melees, not just the proximity knife. Very excited about this. Very, very excited about that. To keep things balanced, we have narrowed some of the perk effects to what we believe the spirit of the original exotic was. This allows for the combination of the 2 of them to not be overwhelming, and it maintains a reason to run the original exotic armor. When a perk on the class item has the same effect as its original version, you should expect some tuning changes. In the final shape, the original Armamentarium and 6th Coyote will gain the ability to create orbs of light from your grenade and dodge respectfully. Check out all possible combos below. So I want to fly through these really quickly. There are 6 of these that are on everybody. All classes will get 6 of these, and then it gets class specific after that. So the 6 that are available to everyone: Spirit of the Assassin, Spirit of the Star Eater, Spirit of the Inmost Light, Syntheseps, Ophidian, and Verity. Spirit of the Star Eater is automatically going to be like a default like DPS one for a lot of people. A lot of these are based around like enhancing your abilities. That specifically focuses on your super, though. And as someone who runs Star Eaters a lot, I can tell you it's pretty fucking great. And then the remaining ones for the hunters are going to be Dragon, Spirit of the Dragon, the Cyrdaline, Galanor, Gear Falcon, Foe Tracer, Lyre, Caliban, Wormhusk, Renewal, and Coyote. Man, there are some really great ones. For example, I'm very excited for the Renewal Grasps one, because I plan on running Duskfield Grenades a pretty decent amount with this. Allies inside the Duskfield take reduced damage, and targets inside the area deal reduced damage. And I'm almost always gonna want Star Eater in that second column. That second column, though, is great. For example, Certicane, however you pronounce that, gain Woven Mail when you use your grenade. I'm assuming that's with any grenade, which is kind of a cool effect. Very excited for that. Spirit of the Gear Falcon. You get volatile rounds on anything at this point. Also, I mean, you could, oh man, you do that. You combine that with Galanor. There's going to be some really good. Combining Galanor and Star Eaters is a wild combination, and it almost instantly makes Blade Barrage like just straight up one of the best supers in the game. It already is one of the best, but I actually don't think you can use Blade Barrage with this. So that's a little more interesting to me. Um, you could actually combine that with the new. You can combine that with the new Arc Super. You can combine that with Tether. You can. I mean that with Stasis Tornado. That's actually going to be really cool. Because it's for every hit in Final Blow. So you just be generating orbs left and right for everybody. That's all cool. There's a lot of melee specific stuff here too. I really like that you can do Spirit of Caliban with Spirit of Lyre, which is Lyre's handshake. And then there's stuff that's built around your dodges. I think that's very cool. You can combine so you can't combine Wormhusk and Coyote, but you can have Coyote and Foe Tracer. I think that's cool. Coyote and Dragon. There's some really fun combinations here. Next, we got the Titan, though, Corey. I know you're excited to talk about the Titans. Of course, there are 6 abilities available to everyone: Assassin, Star Eater, Syntheseps, Inmost Light, Ophidian, and Verity. You'll be getting Severance, Contact, Scars, Hoarfrost, Eternal Warrior, Horn, Alpha Loopy, Abiant, Bear, and Armamentarium. There's some crazy ones you can do here. I want to pull Johnny and I were talking about this earlier in a different chat. And it was Heart of Inmost Light with is that the one I'm thinking of? I want to think. Verity's Brow, and you can get Verities with Inmost Light. Which are those are 2 that are available to everybody. But that's going to be a lot of fun. I think what was the other one? Our friend Joasis was very excited about Severance and Contact together because you can get 3 Consecration Slams out of it.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty awesome.
God, there are some really cool. I feel like these are all really cool, but like nothing is super overpowering. Like if you're going for something that's DPS focused, you basically have to choose Star Eaters. And this makes sense why they're gonna let this activity be farmable too, to get multiple rolls for multiple situations.
Yeah.
Like this, do you have any combos here that like just jump off the page at you as a Titan that you'd be interested to try?
I mean, a lot of these just feel like things that would enhance what I'm already doing. I don't know about combos. I haven't really studied it enough yet to really look, but I know I love Armamentarium's perk, and if I don't have to wear Armamentarium to get that extra grenade, like I that's gonna help me immensely. Especially in my solar build where I'm like it's like a support solar build where you throw down healing grenades. And I think that would be really nice to, instead of throwing one in front of you and hoping everybody stands in front of you, you can kind of throw them off to the side and kind of have your team flank, wherever you're going. Right. I think,
I think that
sounds great.
I was gonna say that with Inmost Light would be a really cool combo, I think.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Also I'm eyeballing Syntheseps and Severance together. Because with Severance, your powered melee or finisher final blows unleashes a damaging explosion. Syntheseps, of course, improved melee damage when you're surrounded. What better for a Titan than to punch their way out of something?
Yeah, that would be an up close and personal Titan build.
That's an A1 Johnny build.
Yeah. I steal a lot of A1 Johnny's builds because he builds some good guardians, let me tell you.
I also say I'm interested to see Spirit of Scars and Eternal Warrior together. Because of course, Eternal Warrior grants a damage bonus for weapons matching your super's element when your super ends, and Precious Scars gives you the final blows with weapons that have a damage type matching your super's element. Create a burst of healing around you that grants allies restoration. I think those are both really cool ones that you can do. Um, Hoarfrost and Horn together could be interesting because those are both barricade ones. Your barricade becomes a wall of stasis crystals with Hoarfrost that
Hmm.
slows nearby enemies when created, but Spirit of the Horn unleashes a blast of solar energy from your barricade that scorches targets. You could get the 1-2 punch there.
You could.
I think
You
if
could.
you're going to play a support titan, I actually think some of these could be really cool.
Yeah.
Some of these could be really really fun to me. Of course, I mean you could always do Hoarfrost and Alpha Lupi together. Um, the Titan ones really feel like they are more focused around being a support class, which is kind of interesting to me. I really like that. Whereas like the Hunter, it's encouraging you to get on the offensive and use your abilities more. With the Titan, it's almost about reining them in outside of those crazy melee combinations we're seeing.
Hmm.
All right,
Yeah, definitely cool.
let's
A
move
lot of
on to
cool
this
stuff.
Warlock exotic bond. Excited to talk about this one too. Of course, the standard 6. And then you're going to get Spirit of the Stag, you're going to get Vesper, Filaments, Harmony, Necrotic, Starfire, Osteomancy, Swarm, Apotheosis, and Claw. Um, I am, man, this might be the most fun to play with, I think. Um, I think that instantly I'm watching this and I'm thinking. So when it says Spirit of Starfire, for instance, this is another one that I feel like is getting slightly changed for the wording in Prismatic. Grenades recharge from empowered weapon damage with empowered weapon final blows, granting more energy. I have seen the way that Joasis goes off with his crazy grenade builds, his solar nades flying everywhere. I'm very interested to see that with some of these other ones because I actually
Hmm.
really like that this can roll with Osteomancies, which is quicker grenade recharge on hits and seeker spawn from cold snap grenades travel further.
Yeah.
Um, that could be an awesome combo if Starfire works with. Well, I mean, obviously, you can run with stasis grenades. I think that's really cool. Stag is gonna be pretty relevant again. Rift provides damage reductions to allies standing in it. You can combine that with Vesper Radius. Rifts periodically release arc shockwaves. Um,
That sounds cool.
yeah, there's definitely some cool things you can do here. Um, I think necrotic grips, which is damaging combatants with your melee poisons them, defeating a poison enemy spreads the condition. I think that with Spirit of the Claw could be really cool if you want to just go like bam, 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 bam. That could be really cool. I'm especially thinking in like 6v6 of the Crucible. That could be really cool to see. Um, and then on top, I mean, on top of that, like obviously you can anybody can get the anybody can get the assassin's cowl perk. Finishers empowered melee final blows grant invisibility. Imagine invisible titans and warlocks running around in the crucible. Like even as a warlock, you're like, oh shit, I can combine that with syntheseps. Um, and then I think like Spirit of Inmost Light, I think is going to be one that like warlocks are going to want to use a lot too because getting that rift back quicker and quicker and quicker from using
Yeah.
your other abilities
Yeah.
and star eaters obviously you're gonna want the star eaters for when you start doing like needle storms or you're doing nova bombs, like you want that spirit of star eater.
Yeah.
So I think all that's really cool. I'm very, very, very excited to play around with this. All of these exotic class item perks will only work when you have the prismatic subclass equipped. We knew we couldn't fit everyone's favorite perks into these without making the pools of available roles too large. It was a balancing act to support lots of exciting options while also making it reasonable to chase a specific combo. However, we are also making a set of exotic armor balance adjustments with the launch of the final shape, including some buffs that will impact both the original armor and its spirit version. So, some of the class item perk combos might end up being better than you expect. We'll have more to share about exotic armor balance in general in the coming weeks. We've only got 3 weeks left. I expect to see this either next week or the week after. I don't think they're holding this until the week before the final shape. I think that's going to be a very low key chwab. I think they want it out there in the next week or two. Um, yeah, I'm excited to see what the community comes up with here, like on paper, and then seeing the actual testing.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have now you have like account light level makes me that much more excited to jump in and go finish things like Strand and Stasis on my other two classes.
Yeah.
All right, Corey, any final thoughts on these exotics or on anything that we've seen from Prismatic?
I'm I'm just really excited to see what kind of builds come out of this and see how they adjust these perks, nerf or buff, depending on what builds come out of this. And I'm interested to see if they add more down the road. I mean, not like a couple weeks, but like 6 months, a year down the road, if they decide to change it up a little bit. So I think this is exciting. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Quite excited. I'm excited to play around with it.
Yep, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, moving on. Of course,
Moving
Oryx got
on.
added to the Pantheon this week. I have
Or
found out that some of the lore nuggets that have been dropped that were dropped in last week's were not previously known. So I want to make sure that I'm looking at these closely now. Going forward, one of the pieces of intel that we have here. Everything here is pretty much known, but many hives still tithe the Oryx in secret, though it is not known where the power of their tithes goes, given that the Taken King is dead. Sounds to me like this is gonna be a plot point.
Ooh.
We do have a hive. We do have a hive themed episode coming up. I believe it's the second episode. It's the second or third.
Yeah, it's the
It's
second.
heresy, I think.
Yeah, because the Scorned is I don't remember.
All right.
It's
Anyways, it's either the second or third episode. I would assume, like, the easy assumption is that the power of Oryx's tithes is going to Xivu Arath as the god of war. I'm a little interested to see if they tug on that plot thread a little bit with us, preventing his resurrection twice now, in two separate dungeons. So I'm a little interested to see if they're going to address this or not. Like, we're kind of running out of rope with the Hive, though. I'd really like to leave the Hive saga behind here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'd love to be done.
I'd really like to be done. Another couple of pieces of info that if you don't read the lore or you haven't listened to a lot of Bife, you might not know. Oryx slew Akka, the Worm of Secrets, and carved the Dreadnought from its corpse. Hidden operatives report faint biosignatures still pulsing from within the ship's hull. Through the use of Willbreaker and the Dreadnought, Oryx may weaponize his throne world, allowing it to spill into the material plane as a wave of destructive power. This weapon claimed the Awoken fleet during the Battle of Saturn. While imprisoned in the Dreaming City, Savathun once claimed that her brother Oryx was unable to control his curiosity, that his worm intentionally directs it, and that the worm manipulates Oryx's actions unbeknownst to him. She claims all hive worms function in this way. The veracity of this claim is unconfirmed. I would they're planting some seeds for episodes in these little bios that we're getting.
Yeah,
we had some last week that definitely raised a few eyebrows. So
yeah, definitely looks like it.
All right, from now until June 3rd, Corey, we can play catch up. Red Border Weapons Bonanza every day.
Bonanza.
Every day from now until June 3rd, players will get a guaranteed deep sight weapon drop upon completion of a seasonal activity. So if you've still not unlocked the pattern for, let's say, Rakatunier Bow from the Season of Defiance, you can complete a Defiant Battleground to receive a deep sight drop of that very weapon. You will get another the day after and another day after that one, and so on until you have completed the pattern. Don't worry if you have more than one. If you keep playing, our knockout system will ensure you'll only get drops for those weapons. So the activities that count for these: Season of Defiance, Defiant Battlegrounds, and the Avalon exotic mission. Season of the Deep, Deep Dives and Salvage. Season of the Witch, the Summoning Pools and Savathun's Spire. And Season of the Wish, of course, Riven's Lair and the Coil. Great opportunity to go in there and get them, even if I felt the weapons this year were pretty lackluster for seasons. It's still a good opportunity to go in and do them. There's a lot of weapons to collect out there.
Yeah.
I was going to get a list together, and I keep meaning to do it, getting a list together of the weapons that people should go out and get. I will have a list next week of my personal recommended weapons. I'll get a list of like 8 or 9 weapons together, maybe, that I think you should go chase that are for the seasons. They're seasonal specific. AKA will not be as readily available after this.
Yeah. Go get them.
Go get them. Tuesday, the 14th, 0 Hour is going to drop. I was operating under the assumption for over a month that it was dropping on May 7th, and I looked like a real idiot running around screaming like Bungie forgot to put it in. And then Twitter let me know that no, it was May 14th, and I'm just dumb. So I'm very excited for this. Can't wait to go in and get the new perks for the guns. For the gun. God, we've still got stuff to talk about. The final part of Into the Light dropped this week with the 3 new Crucible maps. Joe and I had a chance to play these, play a few matches on each. I am actually digging 2 of the 3 maps. Cirrus Plaza is going to take a lot of getting used to. It feels very like Ivory Tower-esque. It also feels very different from any other Destiny map out there, in my opinion. Definitely a lot of close quarters combat. I can see some Iron Banner matches getting kind of nutty there. Some of the Hunter prismatic gameplay came from that map also. I think it looks cool, but I'm not like, okay, I'm not like rearing to play this. This is definitely going to be a trials map that gets used a pretty fair amount, I would say.
Yeah.
I liked the other 2 way more. Eventide Labs right now is my favorite. I think it's a runaway favorite with people in the community. Or at least amongst the people I've talked to. I think it's a really cool map. It's nicer to have some smaller sized maps rather than these giant ones. And then I really enjoyed Dissonance, which we've jokingly started calling Disjunction 2.0. That map is interesting. It's going to take a lot to learn. There's a lot of long sight lines there, so it's kind of perfect for snipers or for things like Deadmans. But I really enjoy it. I actually thought it was a really fun map when we were playing. We were playing to get some real sweat since we were doing it right at the reset that it came out at. But I still really enjoyed it. And if you do the intro quest where you have to go play every map twice, then you get your choice of one of the 3 comp weapons. So that was kind of cool. Definitely recommend going and checking these maps out, though. I think they're all gorgeous. And I hope that we don't have to sit here and holler and scream for another 3 years for more maps. This should be a regular thing.
Well, I mean, you would hope with the PvP strike team that this would be a regular thing, right? I mean, we're kind of hoping, right? I mean,
you would hope so. You would hope so. I'm not going to hold my breath.
Do it, Josh. Hold your breath until we get more PvP maps.
I'm gonna die.
We need a new co-host.
I'm also very excited for the Crucible emblem you get if you go and engage with that playlist. It's cool. They did announce that there's not going to be any trials this weekend, though, because they want people to go play this new playlist, and I don't think that's the move at all. I think that's actually a terrible idea. But
it's a choice.
It's a choice. Man, this was a cool announcement that none of us saw coming this week. Of course, Lightfall is available with PS Plus. They announced that after our last episode, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it on here. That is a free giveaway on PS Plus. That and Tunic, one of the best games of the last couple of years. Highly encourage everyone to go claim both of these things. Starting now and running through June 3rd, we have launched the Destiny 2 Open Access period. What does this mean? It means that Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, The Witch Queen, and all 4 seasons are available to free for anyone who wants to play them. Yes. That's crazy. That's matter awesome. What expansion you play, all the rewards you earn during this period are yours to keep forever, no matter if they are exotics, raid weapons, or high-stat legendary armor. And that's not all.
That's not all, Josh.
That's not all. I missed this initially. Somebody had to point this out to me in another Discord today. When the final shape launches on June 4th, the campaigns for Shadowkeep and Beyond Light, along with the Stasis subclass, will remain available to all players at no cost.
What?
Fucking finally. I cannot believe that we are having to address this after all these years, it's a start. It's a start because, well, they're doing something like they did with the Forsaken pack, which I'm not exactly happy about. The Shadowkeep pack will grant access to 13 exotic weapons, 3 exotic armor pieces, the Scarlet Keep Nightfall, the Pit of Heresy dungeon, and the Garden of Salvation raid. The Beyond Light pack will get you 12 exotic weapons, 6 exotic armors, Glassway Improving Grounds, Nightfalls, and the Deepstone Crypt raid. Deepstone Crypt really should just be like standard. That should just be in the game, I think.
Yeah,
I
especially because it's like,
it's a very beginner friendly raid.
yeah, that's where I was going.
Once the final shape is live, we're also launching a new pack called the Destiny 2 Legacy Collection 2024. This pack will give you access to some of the best content Destiny has to offer, including Lightfall, the Witch Queen, the 30th Anniversary pack, Beyond Light pack, Shadowkeep pack, and Forsaken pack. Just include all this shit. Just sell this and delist everything else. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Do what ESO does. Delist everything after like a year or two and just start including it in what you buy for that year. It's not that hard. I think this is really silly. This is needlessly confusing, but it is a step forward. I will admit that.
Yeah, well, it still could be improved.
It could definitely be improved. And I mean, hey, PS Plus. Really glad that they're getting that. They've been giving these away on PS Plus also though for a few months now. I think Beyond Light has been given away. I know Witch Queen was, and then obviously Lightfall. I think over like the last 6 months they've given all 3 away. Which we expected. I'm actually kind of surprised the old expansions aren't just part of PS Plus at this point.
Well, if you remember,
or part of the sub.
Yeah, well, I think they might be because I never claimed the Witch Queen on PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I never claimed Beyond Light on PlayStation, and I own them.
Interesting.
Because I was like, well, they're like $5 and $7 right now. I should probably just get them on PlayStation. And I went to purchase the Witch Queen. It says you already own this. Which, first of all, I'm shocked that PlayStation told me I already owned it, because it's so difficult to know if you purchase something that's part of a bundle or not. But I don't know. They told me I already owned it, and then I went to Beyond Light, and it said I already own that. I was like, oh, okay, well, because the last expansion I bought on PlayStation was Shadowkeep. So
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. Somehow I own everything. I don't know. Whatever.
All right. Well, Corey, we're gonna move out of the Schwab because I think we're done with the Schwab for this week. We're gonna head out of the Schwab. I wanted to address something. So I forgot to bring this up the last couple of weeks. I was talking about the weapon rolls each week that I was really enjoying getting, and I didn't really do it for those last 2 weeks. So I want to talk about those really quickly. I've gotten some rolls I'm really enjoying on, respectfully, Blast Furnace, Hammerhead, and oh my god, I'm forgetting. I know Luna's Howl came out. What was the other weapon that dropped with Hammerhead? I'm completely forgetting now. Forbearance. Forbearance was the other one that dropped. I have really been enjoying Blast Furnace again. It feels just as buttery smooth as always. The shiny, I got a shiny to drop of this. I'm very excited.
Shiny.
Of course, I like the shiny look, but I'm more excited about the double perks. You guys know me. It dropped for me with Firefly One for All, and then Snapshot Sight's Kinetic Tremors. And let me tell you something. Firefly Kinetic Tremors on this gun shreds. Nice. It is a lot of fun. It's a buttery smooth pulse rifle. It's a 4-burst. It's a 450. It is one of my all-time favorite legendary weapons in this game. I'm so glad that it's back. It's back and better than ever, in my opinion. Firefly and Kinetic Tremors feel right at home on this gun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really, really enjoying that one. Would encourage folks to go get themselves a good Blast Furnace. Another one I need to play with for PvP is going to be Frenzy Zen Moments. I got that to drop. Of course, I'm still rocking my Succession from time to time.
Yeah, sure.
I also I gotta search for it real fast. Hammerhead. Let's talk about Hammerhead. I got a shiny of this one to drop also that I was pretty excited about. High impact reserves, not super jazzed about that, but the other three perks. I got the new perk Desperate Measures. I
Nice.
got Rewind Rounds, and I got Envious Assassin. Um, I don't think high impact is like necessarily bad. It's just like it's not a sexy perk, right? Like it's still very reliable. And of course, it came with the high caliber rounds. Really excited on that. Um, I like Desperate Measures. If you're using it for ad clear, I think that's really good. Um, and then God, Rewind Rounds is so good. It's so stupid good on a gun like this. Uh, really enjoying that. I even think that the roll that they just hand you isn't that bad for Hammerhead, which is killing tally 4 times the charm. It's not like meta by any means, but it's definitely not bad. And then what Mountaintop was the other one I wanted to talk about real fast. I I have been torturing myself with Mountaintop, Corey. I have been
That
trying to
doesn't
get a
shock
shiny
me.
Mountaintop to drop for 3 weeks now. I have
Yeah, it
seen
doesn't sound like
one.
it's going very well for you, Josh. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I've seen one, and I was not exactly thrilled with it. It's not bad. Rampage Impulse and Vorpal Lead from Gold. I really wanted auto loading on there to some degree, but I mean, it comes with spike nades, it comes with high velocity rounds. Like if I don't get another one, it's still very serviceable. Don't get me wrong. Um, I really like recombination on this grenade launcher though, so I'm really wanting to get recombination on a shiny. I do have rolls with auto loading recom. This is one of those that I think I'm just destined to hold like 5 rolls of it until I decide what I actually want for my playstyle.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one? Luna's Howl is the other one.
Luna's Howl.
Yeah, I'm not particularly chasing rolls on Luna's Howl. The standard roll they give you, I actually don't think is horrible. Magnificent Howl, Eye of the Storm, Ricochet Round. I don't think it's terrible. Um, but our friend A1 Johnny finally got his roll, and he's very excited about it. He got Heal Clip on it. He's very excited about
Ooh,
that.
that's
Um,
fun.
Heal Clip is a pretty sexy perk. If you can get, I got it on the Parabellum SMG that can drop out in the world, and yeah, it shreds. I just really need it on the solar sidearm now. I need it on heliocentric. Um, but anyways, wanted to pop in, do a really quick check on all of those. I don't think I have a forbearance that I've been like super happy with yet. I also haven't like really grinded forbearance just yet. I got one with golden tricorn disruption break,
Ooh,
but chain reaction is really the one that you want here. You want chain reaction in that column for me. Um, I'd love to get that with something like golden tricorn. Um, but on a wave frame, I'm always going to want chain reaction. I think
right.
that's awesome. So
Nice.
that's been our really quick weapons check in. I am going to solicit some favorite roles from Johnny and Joe leading into this next week. I'm gonna get together with them, have them give me their favorite roles on guns that I don't use, so that I can legitimately sit here and talk about them. So, all right, Corey,
All right.
we've got questions.
We have questions.
We have questions, and we're going to get through these questions pretty quickly because we're going to read directly from the collector's edition lore book tonight.
Oh, collector's edition
So
lore.
want to blow through these very quickly. Tiger Jesus writes in, what random world drop exotic would you like to get their own mission? So I'm assuming exotic weapon. What weapon that doesn't have a quest would you like for it to have its own quest line?
Oh man, that's a great question.
Because you basically have to go back to like vanilla D2 to think about this.
Yeah, I mean,
Because almost everything's been a quest since then.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Sweet Business wasn't part of a quest. Sweet Business was awesome at one point.
I would say my pick, if I can go, my pick would have been maybe Arbalist, I think. And I know there's an Arbalist quest now, but that's like a new light quest. I'm talking like I would have really loved for Arbalist to have had its own quest. I think that would have been really cool. Um I'm gonna go as far to say I'm gonna be a little bold here and say that I think that maybe some of these season pass exotics could have had their own quests and been really cool. I think Grand Overture in particular would have been a really cool quest. You go on a quest to get a Cabal machine gun that shoots rockets. What? Like I would love that. I think that would be such a cool quest that you could do.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I think Sweet Business I use Sweet Business a lot when I was especially like when we were running Leviathan pretty regularly, and you would run um Sweet Business with the the chest piece that reloads the assault rifles and submachine guns. Fuck, I forget which. God, I'm so brain dead right now. But anyways, I was running that for a while, and then like you would hide behind the barricade.
Axiom War Rig.
Yes, thank you. Jesus. Uh, yeah, man, that was. I think that's what I would pick. Man, Sweet Business was awesome. Graviton Lance too, though.
Gravlance, I think, with how it is now, would be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Graviton Lance would be cool. I feel like they could form a cool quest around Graviton Lance. Sweet Business is just a dumb weapon, but you know.
It's much more fun if you're a Titan. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
All right. Jiggly Panda writes in, thoughts on Bungie taking a few W's recently? Has the lightning struck again, and does this raise any concerns for the final shape? I'll let you go first, Corey. I'll let you go first on this one.
I think you can have one and still have the other, because I'm still definitely very, very, very concerned about the studio after the final shape comes out. But I do have to say, there is some magic right now in the game and the community. There's a lot of positivity, a lot of engagement, a lot of really great things going on, and I think that that's amazing. I do, however, think something. This is the calm before the storm, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I really hope the final shape does well, and I hope the studio keeps everybody, and I hope everybody has a job afterwards and all this stuff. But I mean, we've heard rumblings for so long now that like they're going to have layoffs after the final shape regardless. So it really sucks to think about it that way. But yeah, my answer is you can have one and still have the other.
Yeah. I think the lightning has struck again. But I think it's also because I think we're perceiving it that way because this is stuff that we've asked for as a community for so long. The sun rising essentially, on sunsetting, the combination of light and dark, it's a lore accurate guardian thing. We still got to see how that plays out. We got new maps coming in that are actually fun to play, in my experience. I can't wait to do 6v6. I think on 3v3, I'm not a big 3v3 fan to begin with, but I think in the sixes these are going to be a blast. Whisper and Zero Hour are both back. I'm cautiously optimistic right now. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself because we've all seen how that works out before. We praise something that Bungie does, and then 2 weeks later they screw the pooch. And there's also the Sony of it all. Is Sony going to do something to interfere and mess this up, right?
Right.
So I would say,
and then you also the final shape isn't out yet. Like it could not be good. Like we're all excited for it now because it's the new expansion.
Yeah, we've all fallen into the classic. Nobody does marketing like Bungie,
man. No, they know how to get people hyped for the.
They know how to get people hyped. They're doing their job. Like that marketing team deserves a raise, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But it seems like the developers that are there are still passionate and are really determined that we're going to put out the best fucking thing possible, get out of our way. And it really does feel like maybe upper management stepped back a lot and we're like, oh, we're going to let them cook. And I really hope that guys like Pete Parsons and Jason Jones are seeing the response to what's happening right now with the game and are like, okay, we just need to let them cook.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also think that they're going to be gone pretty soon. I do think Sony's going to take control of the board.
I
And I
have
mean,
that feeling
if Sony's smart, they'll let them just keep cooking. If they're smart, and we've seen time and time again that they're not. So, TBD on that one. And then what is your ideal exotic perk combo on the class items? Funny enough, you wrote this in last night before we had gotten this info today. And well, we just talked about combos we're really excited about for each class.
Right.
Ronnie writes in.
Ronnie.
All right, Corey and HD and Finn with 2 N's. We've all been carried in an activity before. No shame in that. What's the one activity you want to do and try to do that you finally just said, fine, I need help, and not just help, but carried through this activity? Oh boy. So I've got a story on this one.
Tell it, Josh.
It's Garden of Salvation. Garden of Salvation is 100% my carry, and I have zero shame in it. Well, funny enough, it's both Garden and the first time I did Last Wish. The first and only time I've done the entire raid of Last Wish. So for Moments of Triumph, the first year they did a seal for it during Forsaken, you had to complete Last Wish, Scourge of the Past, and the Crown of Sorrow. You had to do all 3 raids. And this is when, light level wasn't really changing much. I did an LFG for Last Wish, and it took us like 6 hours to do this raid. I'm not even kidding. The person who was guiding us through was somebody who had not yet hit puberty.
Yikes.
I had a 12-year-old carry me through Last Wish. And not just me. I'm going to put him on blast here. I'm going to call him out. A1 Johnny was in that fire team with me. Johnny and I got carried by Johnny and I had only been friends for a couple months at this point. We shamelessly got carried through it in September 2019. We got carried through Last Wish by a 12-year-old who spent the whole time dissing another 12-year-old, which was very funny.
Well,
it was very amusing to me. Garden of Salvation is my other one. I tried for 15 hours across 2 days to get through this raid. We actually got through most of the raid in about 3 hours, and we were going in mostly blind, I would say. We also did the divinity puzzles along the way. We could not beat the Consecrated Mind, though, no matter what we did. We had this British guy in there with us who was insisting on using a Witherhoard cheese that was just not working on console. We tried it again with friends the next day. We could not get it done. I was still in the instance, and I was damn determined I was not leaving there without getting my divinity. And so a friend of mine who was there with me put up an LFG and said, hey, we've got a div checkpoint. We can't leave the activity because if you leave, it resets all your progress. We had to go back through the entire raid from Consecrated Mind to get everybody to be able to spawn in with us at the beginning of the raid and then do all the puzzles again. So we go through, we do this, and we beat the boss. We beat the boss second try and got divinity. I have not touched that raid since. I've never loaded back into that raid. And I never will. It is my least favorite experience I've ever had in Destiny. I was shamelessly carried by some British people in Garden of Salvation and by a couple of 12-year-olds in Last Wish. Shamelessly.
I mean,
I've become a much better raider since those days. But that was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, man.
Yeah.
So I would say Pantheon is coming close to being on this list also. Like I am. Oh man. I mean, I'm pulling my weight, but still, like I got no shame. I got absolutely no shame here.
No shame.
No shame whatsoever.
Josh has
we've
shame.
all been carried. Corey, what's the activity you've been carried through?
Gosh, I've tried to be carried through trials, and I was just so bad.
Oh, I have been carried to the house. I should say that.
To be fair, this was like a while ago. Not that I'm any better at PvP now than I was 5 years ago, but I mean, I've tried to be carried through trials. I would say, man, the first run through Skolas, I was carried pretty. I was pretty carried. Although we were all just kind of like running around in circles for 3 hours because our one friend, I mean, that was before like the light levels were actually numbers and like you had to have specific gear to reach max level. God, I don't miss those days. But our one friend didn't have the boots from Crota or whatever to make you level 32 or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was level 31 and he just kept dying. So me and my other friend just kept running around in circles. And my one friend was like carrying both of us through Skolas for like 3.5 hours. It was nuts, man.
Yeah, I'd be lying if so I was supposed to be carried through Skolas, and the guy who was carrying me died. So me and my other buddy ran in circles for 20 minutes because he died in such a weird spot that we couldn't get to him without Skolas killing us. So we just kept taking loser laps, and every time we picked up a heavy brick, we just turned around and would shoot him.
Oh.
And yeah, we did that for like 30 minutes straight. Which is like doing that and like using primary ammo to like plink away at his health. Toss grenades behind us whenever we could. And yeah, we eventually killed him that way. This dude was dead the entire time. He stayed with us the whole time because he was a mutual friend. He stayed dead in the party chat for 20-something minutes while we cleared it.
Yikes.
And it is the damn funniest thing I've ever watched because he was calling out like how close Skolas was to us. Could we like could we go off the deviated path to grab a heavy brick or not? Do we have time to like stop and open a synth real fast, like in cover? Like, yeah, he was like coaching two idiots through Skolas. That's the only clear I ever got of Skolas.
Oh man, dude, Skolas was a
Yeah.
I don't envy anybody who missed Skolas. I'm going to tell you right now.
It was definitely it was a challenge. That's for damn sure.
Men were made out of Skolas. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, that's where men were made.
Oh man.
So, okay. And then we already answered Joe Asis's question over the course of the show. I have a question in my DMs that I was sent. Oh shit, I think it's on Twitter. Hang on. I gotta remember where I got this DM'd to me. Yes. Gus DM'd me on Twitter. We've read questions from Gus before on the show. He DM'd me and says, "Hey man, I got a couple questions for tonight's show." I'm putting Corey on the spot with this first question.
Yikes.
Have you or Corey discussed plans about how Tower Casuals will be after the final shape drops? Will it still be a weekly show, or will you cut down a bit when final shape or the first episode is fully in motion?
Man, that's a loaded question we have tossed around but haven't really come to any sort of conclusion.
I think we had a direction kind of like etched out, and then they dropped Prismatic.
Yeah.
They basically dropped all the Into the Light stuff, and they dropped Prismatic on us with that mini Vidoc, and I would say it's murkier now than it was 2 months ago. 2 months ago, I felt like we kind of had a plan. We're gonna say TBD on this one.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah,
we will decide in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, what Josh said.
Yeah. We're going to talk it over, but I felt it was important to read this out here so everybody knows that we are actually having these conversations and trying to decide what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And then second episode, or second question, not episode. God, what Destiny crossover would you? Just kidding. Keep up the great work, Gus. Thank you for writing, Gus. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Gus.
Oh boy. All right. We're gonna shift over to the lore corner.
The lore corner.
We're gonna go to the lore corner. I'm gonna read from the collector's edition lore tonight. This is a really hard book to read from. Because a lot of it is conversational in here. because it's all notes and recordings that Ido has recovered.
Well,
And
that just means
compiled
you have to
them
read
for
it
me.
in voices, Josh.
Well, so I'm not going to do that just because like it's not like our typical characters that are talking, right? Um, but we're going to read from this is where our lore corners are going to come from for the next 3 weeks. This week and the next 2 weeks, episode 200, we're going to read it. We're going to read some different lore. But I really wanted to bust this book open and read some of this for those who don't or who have not read it. There is a repeated identity in here. HNW 047622. I have assumed that this is probably the dominant personality of what the witness is. This is probably one of the leaders of that species. Is what I would. That's what I am choosing to assume. I'm letting you know right now. This is my own conjecture. I have not watched anything that Bife has put out on this. I have not read anything from anybody else, any speculation. This is my own assumptions. But I want to read this. This is how the book opens up. I arrived at the Garden to Be to find barren rock, as lifeless as the expanse around it. Just as the survey said, it's perfect. Rather, it will be perfect. The moment I laid eyes on the allotted system, I knew my initial plans had to go. How inelegant they were, the drafts drawn up in smiling ignorance. Only experience could have cured me of such short-sightedness. Yes, now I can see the path to the summit slash pyramidion slash final shape. Here, the Maltretta blade leaves. There, the green glass basti blossoms arching overhead. I have brought everything, enough progenitor material to seed 100 worlds, never mind 5. In time, there will be a grand harvest of Paneka from this garden. I'm sure both you and your merciful, penitent benefic will be pleased. I could cover these bare rocks with greenhouses, of course. So, actually, I'm going to stop right there. It is very hard to keep track of some of these code names. This is the gardener. We are assuming this is the gardener, not the winnower. So this would be the entity acting on behalf of the traveler, essentially. Okay,
Right.
as detailed in the unveiling warbook. Okay, I want to make sure we're all clear on the same page there.
Great.
Very, very boring. After all that, it would just be a reflection shard imitation of system R3TN PLRMA, wouldn't it? And you know I've never had any interest in recreating other people's designs. So just between you and me, here's a little secret. The prognators weren't all I brought with me. I can hear you scolding me now, but there was so much space in the cargo hold, and, well, to be frank, you're not here to disapprove. Besides, if you could see this allotment as I do, see the potential writ in the cracks and crevices of every rock, feel the heartbeat song of their molten cores, you would understand. But you won't need to take my word for it. By the time you can bear to leave work long enough to come visit, my garden will have taken root and grown strong. How lovely will be to sit together and listen to the wind whistling through the burrows. Perhaps even you will smile. Oh, but I mustn't get ahead of myself. Before any of this can happen, I'll need to prepare. I've unfurled the pergola to capture what I need to weave each planet's atmosphere. The pergola's sail is so vast that I must cross my ship from vertex to vertex to see around the sparkling cloth. It's exhilarating. I've wielded the gardener's tools before, but never at such scale. It feels unfair, honestly. You led the development of such marvels, and yet you're leaps away, unable to see the culmination of your hard work. I know you claim it doesn't matter to you as long as you know your work is being put to good use, but still, permit me this idle fancy. At this rate, it shouldn't take more than a few centuries before I have enough substrate to work with, and then, well, you'll just have to come and see the summit slash pyramidion slash final shape for yourself, won't you? So there's also a cargo hold manifest here. But scribe notes, some of the things they talk about are it is specifically noted here when they talk about the gardener is another name for the traveler. When they say the gardener's tools, that is the traveler's light. That's what I'm assuming that is.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I think I just hit the microphone.
You did.
Um, and then trying to figure one of the mysteries is trying to figure out who this is. We can safely assume, I think, that this is the one acting on behalf of the traveler. And it seems the individual they're talking to is who will become the dominant personality of the witness. That's at least my bold assumption. Because it's kind of inconclusive. There's some talk about the final shape and some of the. This is where I say like some of these conversations are hard because there's no actual names given,
Right.
so it's hard to have them. But it's an argument between this person and somebody else. This is kind of the dominant person throughout all of these logs. They're arguing with somebody else, presumably who they were writing to in the previous passage. That person is arguing we mustn't abandon the path to the final shape simply because it's difficult. And our narrator, difficult, you're being willfully obtuse. Difficult might describe a sustained effort or self-denial done with intent and care for one's own well-being. What you are describing is coercion. Yes, a moment's coercion to prevent a millennia's suffering. We can see what will happen if we sit idly by. If we choose to do nothing and in our inaction allow this carnage to continue, then we are complicit. Thus, the ethical choice is to act. Our narrator, at what cost? With what means? Would you advocate for the use of violence? Will you approve the murder of those who disagree? Will you and your merciful penitent benefit cause lesser harm for greater good? No, never. The purpose and means are indispensable. It's simple theology. We're not advocating for needless cruelty. There are countless methods of intervention at our disposal with compassion as their guiding pillar. The transition and uplifting enlightenment would be uncomfortable naturally, but the alternative is to sit idly by and watch the inevitable extinction of a species, an extinction we could prevent. If the final shape is truly the greatest good imaginable, then its rightness should be self-evident. It should be so clear to anyone and anything that comprehends it that we should never need to do more than share the information for them to reach the same conclusion. Well, that we have failed to do so even among the consensus suggests imperfections in our own understanding. If we cannot provide an apodictic final shape even to each other, to our own kin with whom we strive to understand as well as our own selves, then how can we possibly declare it fit to teach others? What good is perfection if it is purely theoretical? All concepts are refined through practice. If we focus on ourselves to the exclusion of all others, if we refuse to help others and thereby pursue our perfect happiness at the cost of their interminable pain, what do we call that if not selfishness? Humility, acceptance of our own limited perspective. Indifference to suffering? I am not indifferent. I would gladly endure pain if doing so would help others. It's a different matter entirely to force it upon someone else, even for the sake of another. An improperly healed bone must be rebroken before it can be set properly. An infected wound must be lanced. Do you abstain from uprooting weeds, even if they threaten to strangle the garden? If some suffering is inevitable, then surely it is better to seek the maximum good from it. If the choice is between greater and lesser evils, the choice itself is flawed. I refuse to participate. I agree with you in theory, but we do not exist purely in the theoretical. This suffering is already happening now, all the time, everywhere we look. Come see me, and I will show you the observatory's readings. Such sights as we have seen, my friend, make me sick to my soul. I thought that the observatory could only see possibilities, the future branches of past visible light readings. We've made improvements. The glass mines trimmed the excess branches. What we see now are the strongest paths, and in seeing, they become true. Then tell me what you have seen. I gain nothing from running from the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Cities turning on themselves in a frenzy of self-destruction, children offering up parents in superstitious sacrifice to bloodied gods, an entire people who would boil off their own atmosphere rather than let their neighbors enjoy fresh air, great waves drowning worlds, bodies which do not decompose, for everything down to the very bacteria has died as well, machine plagues carving their prediction machines into moons, your garden destroyed, as the observatory saw it, so it come to pass. I apologize. I was unkind. I was wrong to bring up old hurts. There's a lot more in this conversation. I want to save it for next week at this point, but I wanna point to some of the things that we talk about here, right? Children offering up parents in superstitious sacrifice to bloody gods. I wonder if that's a reference to Rolk's race,
Yeah.
for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Machine plagues carving their prediction machines into the moons. That's clearly the Vex. bodies which do not decompose because everything down to the very bacteria has died as well. I wonder if that's a reference to maybe the Hive or the Scorn. Certainly, Great Waves Drowning Worlds is a reference to the Hive.
Yeah.
There's just some absolutely fascinating things here. Cities turning on themselves in a frenzy of self-destruction. Um, I mean, that kind of sums up humanity in a way, also.
Yeah.
I'm forced to wonder if the garden, and I'm sure we're going to get an answer to this in 3 weeks. I've had this thought for a while that the Black Garden was probably the original garden of the gardener. That's what we see him at, presumably what we see them at.
Yeah.
And there was one other note that I wanted to get to some of the notes here at the end. The final shape is no longer described with a ternary somatic cluster, but HNW and RS, which are the two personalities here, continue to use that structure to describe other concepts, potentially reflective of semantic narrowing. Given the terminology, the consensus mentioned here might have been some sort of governing body or philosophical guidance. And then specifically, they talk about the glass mines. The glass mines is the last one I want to get to. From the context, some sort of computational assistant, there appears to be some etymological overlap with the names of Vex mines. Something to investigate later, perhaps. My cross-check for the identification code in the Scribe archive proved to be quite fruitful. The trail of data crumbs led me to a databank recovered from a range ship originally down on Mercury. Saint and Osiris were kind enough to share it with me, along with a pot of tea. Our conversation was most illuminating. I understand that Mercury was a scorched wasteland before the Great Machine's arrival. When it had finished, humans could walk unprotected on its surface. What wonders the machine can work. I can only hope that Mercury will return from the witness's clutches, or at least as Titan was, so I may see it for myself. I hear that thanks to Sol engulfing its sky, one could study without pause, or at least until exhaustion proved greater than their desire to learn. In any case, the concept of the final shape has worn many faces. From your encounters with the disciples of the witness, we know that they all had their own understanding of this concept. They all saw what they wished to see in it. But this communication log here appears to predate all of them. If I'm correct, then the parties communicating are among the witness's precursors. This may all be the concept's original form. We can see in this log that these, at least, were preoccupied with the concept of a higher purpose. They sought the final shape, but at the time of this exchange, they did not agree on what it was or how to achieve it. RS speaks of how the final shape will prevent suffering and maximizing benefit. H&W expresses concern over the methods of achieving this. I notice, however, they never speak of communicating directly with the species they discuss. There's no consideration of consulting others, or even if they are capable of reaching the final shape for themselves and others. The most pressing matters in their discussion is if they should or should not intervene, and to a lesser extent, whether some coercion is acceptable for the greater good. I understand, granted the gifting is the great machine, Elixni and humanity have both fallen into similar traps. The certainty of one's own rightness, the arrogance, the belief that receiving the machine's gifts confers superiority to others. Given the length of time between this record and the Scribe archive, it appears the great machine stayed with their civilization for millennia. If it had stayed on Reese for that long, if humanity's golden age had continued unending, would we have also fallen victim to the same mentality? Lost sight of others as equals and seen them as animals to be herded? I think I prefer where we've come to stand, together, walking the same streets beneath the shadows of the machine. I'm going to leave it there for tonight. There's a lot here.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this book to consider. This is the oldest lore that we've ever gotten, even older than the Unveiling book. This is the oldest lore that's ever been given to us in the Destiny universe.
I love that they're doing this. Like,
I do too.
Going all the way back. I think the story between the gardener and the winnower is fascinating. And as much as I didn't know if I liked the question last week that Fox asked about, twisting the light in the dark, and I don't know, the more I think about it and the more I look at this lore and the more I listen to other people talk about this lore, I don't know. It's like it wants to make sense in my brain that, you know what I mean? Like, it's so fascinating when this story between them. It's so, I want more of it. I just want more of it, Josh.
Yeah, we have a lot more to get through in this book. A lot of what we're going to read going forward are going to be Ido's notes. It does get very hard to, like I said, it gets very hard to keep track of who is saying what in some of these passages. But the goal is to get through this before episode 200. We have 2 more weeks to get through this because I want to leave 200 for any final speculation. And of course, that's a celebration of our community. And I have a lore piece that I've set aside to read for that one. That's not super impactful, but I think really kind of like sums up. Like we keep going back to I keep going back to the Gallarhorn lore, and it was my goal to not read that one this time around. So I have a different piece for us, and it's a very recent one, but it was one that made me smile, a pretty big smile when I saw it in Into the Light. So I'm looking forward to reading that one with us in a couple weeks.
Yes.
All right, Corey, get me out of here.
All right. Good show tonight.
Let's go. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope. I am adding this outro to the show. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Tower Casuals. You can find new episodes every Friday. Check out Xbox Casuals every other Tuesday. This next episode is going to be extra spicy, I think. So,
yeah.
If you want to hear Josh and I scream at each other for an hour and a half, then tune in.
I mean, I don't think there's going to be screen. It's going to be an expanded discussion of what happened today, basically.
Yeah. No, I know. So yeah, you can listen to that. Josh, thank you for your time tonight. As always, where can we find you?
Twitter, Josh_Finn, 2 N's. You guys know it.
2 N's. I'm just gonna make a shirt that has 2 giant N's on it. You can find me at I am Corey HD on Twitter and wherever else. Follow us, Tower Casuals. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.